Okay, so this is the last screencast on sort of getting your bug all designed before we get it to some 3D printing steps. So first thing you want to do is check its size. Hopefully it's all grouped. Hopefully you've followed the steps so that all the feet are sitting nice and flat on the work plane. I'm just going to select it all. It's all one group. I'm going to hit D for drop to work plane. It should be, if the feet are all level, it should be nice and evenly sitting on the work plane. First thing you want to do is check with the size box and sort of orbit around. It's okay if, like here, you can see the feet are hanging out a little bit on either side. That's fine. We just want to keep most of the bug inside that box. It's better to have it all inside, but a little bit, not so bad. Okay, so I don't need that box anymore, so I'm going to delete it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is get my motor and my battery hole in there. So I'm going to bring the battery hole over and the motor hole over. The motor hole is going to go all the way through the bug like this, and I want to align it to the center. So first off, I'm just going to select both of these. I'm going to use the align tool and align them to the centers. And what I have found the most successful, it doesn't always work, but the most successful is that this line here, edge along the battery, using that as a guide, the motor hole, sort of you want to line that up pretty close with sort of the leading edge of your front legs. So you can see those are actually pretty good. I could probably move it a little bit more, but otherwise that looks pretty good. You want to make sure there's enough plastic too, that it's not too thin, getting thin around there, but that's plenty of plastic. And so that is lined up pretty well. You can see there's that, if I look at the top view and change it to flat view, you can see that this edge here is lined up pretty good with that leg. I could probably move this a little forward. You do have to think about weight though. So the motor is the heaviest part of the bug. And if there's too much plastic up here and not enough weight back here, then it will tip over. So that's why you sort of want to get that edge right there. I'm kind of lining it up with sort of the sort of slope of the leg. Maybe go forward a little bit. There we go. And then that point is lined up with that point. That should be pretty good. Maybe back one more. That will be good. And then the battery. So the most important thing about the battery is you don't want the battery hole to go all the way through the bug, because we got to it's got to sit inside. So I'm going to use Control and the arrow keys to bump it up. Okay. One thing that you can do is you can take your bug temporarily and make it transparent, and then you can see the edge of this battery hole where it is, and I can select it, holding Control and Shift. I'm going to bump it down. I don't want to go all the way through, but I want to leave just a little bit of plastic below here. And what's most important is that there needs to be enough plastic around the battery hole here and here so that you can get a good electrical connection. If there's not enough material, it needs to be a few millimeters of material, at least 4 or 5. And if you're worried about that, you should confer with me. But you want to have enough material. You can kind of eyeball it. You can tell when it looks good. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to change the, oh, no, that should be a hole. I'm going to make my bug solid again, not transparent. And then I'm just going to drag a box around all of these and group it. It tells me 3 shapes, which it should. 1, 2, 3. And you know what? You could I'm going to bump the battery back just a little bit more, because that puts more weight towards the back of the bug, just kind of balance the weight out on this thing. And then I'm going to drag all 3 and I'm going to group them. And that looks pretty good. Okay. And so that's what your sort of bug should look like. Battery hole doesn't go all the way through, but the motor hole does. And that'll be fine. So your bug is ready for the next step, which is preparing for 3D printing. And there's a screencast on getting your bug ready for 3D printing. And otherwise, that should be work out pretty well.